The hum of the interstellar med lab was strangely comforting, even to a human like me. On the outer rim of the galaxy, in the sparsely populated star system of Vera 9, I found myself under the scrutiny of Dr. Leora Zenth, the most renowned xenogeneticist in known space. She was an alien of extraordinary intellect, with lavender-toned skin that shimmered faintly under the lab's artificial lighting, and eyes that changed color depending on her focus, golden when curious, violet when puzzled, and on rare occasions, a shocking red when alarmed. Today, her eyes were red. I cannot believe this, she murmured, her delicate fingers hovering over the holoscreen that displayed the DNA sequences. This should be impossible. I swallowed hard, my own heartbeat seeming deafening in the sterile silence of the lab. Impossible?
How?
I asked, though I already had a sinking feeling about what she had found. Dr. Zenth shook her head, her hair, silvery strands like liquid mercury, swaying with the movement. Your DNA, human, has segments that match none of the known life forms in this galaxy. And yet, there are traces that are distinctly Veran in origin. I laughed nervously, thinking it a joke, but I quickly realized from her expression that she was deadly serious. You're saying I'm part alien? Her eyes softened to a confused violet. Not entirely, but your genetic makeup, it is unlike anything I have ever encountered. If I were to hazard a guess, someone tampered with your DNA generations ago. Perhaps your ancestors, for reasons we cannot yet understand, were modified. Or, she paused, almost afraid to continue. Or, you are the first hybrid born naturally in thousands of cycles. I couldn't breathe. Naturally? But how? There's no record of humans and Varans producing offspring. Exactly, she whispered, which is why I am skeptical. This challenges every principle of xenogenetics. The events that led me here began 6 months ago, when I was assigned as a medical liaison for the United Earth Fleet on a routine survey mission. Our ship, Ardent Voyager, had been dispatched to Vera 9 to establish contact with the local colonies and to investigate reports of a rare biological anomaly in the outer asteroid belt. I had expected nothing more than dust storms and perhaps a few microbial oddities. Instead, I found the first anomaly that would change my life entirely, Dr. Leora Zenth herself. She had been called to the colony after a mysterious illness struck the miners. The symptoms were bizarre. Rapid cellular regeneration, followed by sudden tissue necrosis, and then inexplicable immunity to standard antibiotics. I was assigned as her human medical consultant. From our first meeting, I was both awed and intimidated. She spoke in a melodic cadence that made even technical jargon sound poetic, and she had a precision in her work that left no room for error. But it wasn't just her skill that drew me in, it was her curiosity. She was fascinated by anomalies, by the impossible, and she approached science not just as a discipline, but as a puzzle begging to be solved. Over the months, as we worked together, I had come to respect her intellect deeply. And now, I was the anomaly. I need samples, Dr. Zenth said abruptly, pulling me out of my reverie. Blood, saliva, skin cells, everything. We need to sequence your genome fully. I need to know the extent of this hybridization. I nodded numbly. Over the next week, I submitted every sample she requested. The lab equipment on Vera 9 was beyond anything I had ever seen. Quantum sequencers capable of reading entire genomes in minutes, and molecular analyzers that could detect even the faintest genetic deviations. I watched as Dr. Zenth worked tirelessly, her hands a blur, her eyes darting across multiple screens. And then came the moment she called me in. When I entered the main lab, she didn't look at me immediately. She was staring at the holoscreen, her face pale even by Veran standards. "Phase in," she said finally, using my name with an unusual softness. Sit. We need to talk. I sat, my stomach twisting. This is extraordinary, she said, turning to face me. Her eyes were a golden hue, bright and almost frantic. Your DNA, it contains sequences that are pre-ancient. Human DNA from before recorded history, interlaced with sequences that resemble those found in varans, but even those are different, altered, enhanced. She paused, her long fingers tapping on the console. It's as if something intentionally created a hybrid with traits from both species. I couldn't process it. You mean, I was genetically engineered? It's possible, she admitted. But the method is unlike anything known. Even varan genetic engineering is limited by constraints we consider fundamental. Yet your DNA, it defies every rule. You're stronger than a typical human, faster, and your immune system is almost adaptive at a level I've never documented. Your cells can heal in ways we could only dream of. And yet, you are fully functional as a human. The enormity of her words sank in. I had always felt different. Faster reflexes, unusually rapid healing from injuries, and a resilience that often confounded doctors. But I had never understood why. And now the truth was out. Do you know who did this? I asked. Dr. Zenth shook her head. No. But I intend to find out. The anomaly is not just in your genes. It may extend to your physiology, even your neurological structure. We need to examine everything. Over the next month, we worked together obsessively. The lab became our universe, the outside world irrelevant. Dr. Zenth analyzed every aspect of my biology, conducting tests that span genetics, immunology, neurology, and even molecular resonance. The more she studied, the more astonished she became. She discovered that my cells emitted faint biophotonic signals, patterns that, when decoded, resembled communication sequences used by varan scientists for telepathic-like interactions. I had always suspected I was unusually empathetic, capable of sensing emotions almost instinctively, but I had never realized it could be genetic. One night, exhausted and frustrated, she slammed a console shut. Faison, this isn't just genetic manipulation. Whoever, or whatever, did this, they weren't just experimenting with human and varan DNA. They were trying to create a bridge. A bridge? I asked, confusion and dread mingling in my chest. Yes, she said, pacing the lab. A hybrid capable of surviving in both human and varan environments, possibly even facilitating communication between our species. But this goes beyond science. It's deliberate, strategic. Someone wanted a living bridge, someone who could unite or control both species. I leaned back, the chair creaking under the shift of my weight. And I'm that bridge? Dr. Zenth nodded slowly, her hair catching the soft light of the lab. Yes. But that's only part of the story. I've traced a faint, residual energy signature in your genome, a kind of echo. It's ancient, possibly predating recorded varan history. There's a pattern here, a code embedded deep within your DNA. It's a message. Whoever created you left a signature, perhaps even instructions. The idea terrified me. I was more than human, more than I had ever imagined. And yet, I had no idea who had orchestrated it, or why. Days turned into weeks as Dr. Zenth decoded the genetic patterns. It was grueling, painstaking work, but slowly, the pieces came together. The code embedded in my DNA was a map, an atlas of sorts, pointing to a hidden archive buried deep within an asteroid on the edge of the varan system. The archive, if it existed, could hold the answers about my origin, the intentions behind my creation, and possibly a revelation that could change interstellar history. When we finally located the coordinates, Dr. Zenth and I set out in her personal ship, a sleek vessel equipped for both research and stealth. The journey through the asteroid field was treacherous, with gravity wells and shifting debris threatening our hull at every turn. Yet, something instinctive guided us, something I couldn't explain. It was as if my cells themselves were resonating with the location. We landed on the asteroid's surface, the landscape jagged and blackened, illuminated by the faint light of the distant sun. Dr. Zenth led the way, her scanner sweeping the terrain for hidden entrances. Hours passed, and just when despair began to creep in, a faint glimmer revealed a concealed hatch beneath a pile of rock. Inside, the archive was vast, an enormous chamber filled with crystalline structures that pulsed with light. Holographic projections floated in the air, displaying languages and symbols that were both human and Varen. As we approached the central console, a voice echoed in my mind. Not Dr. Zenth's, not my own, but another, older, wiser. Phazon, you are the bridge. You carry the legacy of two worlds. Protect it, understand it, and one day, choose its future. Dr. Zenth stepped closer, her eyes wide with wonder. It's talking to you? I nodded, speechless. The truth was undeniable. I was designed to be more than myself, a link between species, a living repository of ancient knowledge, a potential catalyst for unity. We returned to the ship in silence, each of us lost in thought. The revelation had changed everything. Dr. Zenth no longer looked at me merely as a patient or a study subject. She saw me as a partner, an equal in unraveling the mysteries of the universe. And for the first time, I realized that I was not alone in carrying the weight of history. Weeks later, back on Vera 9, Dr. Zenth published our findings cautiously, omitting the most sensitive details. We were careful. The galaxy was not ready for the truth about human-Varen hybrids. But privately, she would often look at me with that same mixture of awe and disbelief. Phazon, she said one evening as we watched the twin suns set over the horizon, painting the lavender skies in hues of pink and gold. I still can't believe it. You are the key to everything. And yet, you're just you. I smiled faintly. I guess being extraordinary just comes with my DNA. She laughed, the sound musical and warm. Perhaps. Or perhaps it comes from something greater than both of us. Something waiting for you to understand it fully. I didn't know what the future held, or what responsibilities lay ahead. But I knew one thing for certain. My life had changed irreversibly the day Dr. Leora Zenth could not believe the DNA results. And in that disbelief, we found a connection, a mission, and a destiny that neither human nor Varen could have anticipated. For the first time, I felt at home, not fully human, not fully Varen, but a bridge between worlds, carrying a secret that could one day shape the course of the galaxy itself. And I was ready to embrace it. We returned to Vera 9, our ship gliding silently through the asteroid belt, the hum of the engines almost meditative. Neither of us spoke much at first. The weight of the discovery, the revelation that I was the first true human-Varen hybrid, carrying ancient genetic codes that could reshape the galaxy, was enormous. Yet, in that silence, I realized something profound. For the first time in my life, I understood my own place in the universe. Back at the lab, Dr. Zenth continued her work, meticulously cataloging the data we had recovered from the hidden archive. I watched her as she moved, her lavender skin glinting under the soft laboratory lights, her eyes alight with determination. She had been my guide, my skeptic, my partner in discovery, and somewhere along the way, I realized she had become far more than that. You know, she said quietly one evening, we've uncovered the past, but the future is ours to decide. I met her gaze, feeling the gravity of her words. You mean about the hybrid project? About what I was made to be? Yes, she replied, her voice trembling just slightly. You're more than a scientific marvel, Faison. You are a bridge between humans and Varens, between past and future, between what was and what could be. And now, it is your choice how to use it. I swallowed, thinking about the journey that had brought me here, from a routine medical liaison to the subject of a galactic secret older than either of our species. I realized that I had two choices: retreat into obscurity and live a quiet life, or embrace the legacy encoded in my very DNA and step into the unknown. I don't know if I'm ready, I admitted. She stepped closer, placing a hand on mine. The warmth of her touch felt grounding, real, human yet alien all at once. None of us are ready for destiny, Faison. But readiness is irrelevant. What matters is courage. Her words struck something deep within me. And in that moment, I felt it, the resonance in my cells, the ancient codes activating, whispering their purpose. I wasn't just a hybrid. I was a key, a catalyst, a living bridge meant to unite worlds. Weeks passed, and the galaxy began to stir. Word of unusual human-Varen genetic anomalies leaked in quiet channels, drawing interest from scholars, scientists, and even governments. But Dr. Zenth and I were careful. We shared only fragments, protecting the greater truth until the universe was ready. During that time, our partnership deepened. Nights were spent analyzing data, mapping the genetic codes, and exploring ways my abilities could be used responsibly. Slowly, I discovered new capacities: enhanced cognition, subtle telepathic resonance with Varens, and even the ability to accelerate healing, not just in myself, but in others. I became a living bridge in ways I had never imagined. Then came the moment that would define everything. A fleet from a distant system, hearing rumors of a human-Varen hybrid, arrived at Vera 9, intent on capturing me for their own purposes. Dr. Zenth and I barely had time to react. Yet I felt it, an instinct, a call from the genetic resonance within me. My body moved faster than thought, my cells adapting to injuries almost instantly. I guided the fleet into a trap using maneuvers that only I could execute, and Dr. Zenth marveled at the synergy between my instincts and her calculations. When it was over, the fleet retreated, baffled and defeated. The colonists of Vera 9 celebrated us as heroes, but we knew the victory was only temporary. There would always be those who sought to exploit my unique biology. Sitting together in the lab after the chaos, Dr. Zenth looked at me, her eyes the softest shade of violet I had ever seen. "You could leave," she said gently. "You could escape, hide, be normal." I shook my head. "And miss everything we've discovered? Everything we could change?" She smiled faintly, reaching for my hand. "Then it is settled. We face it together." I nodded, understanding at last what it meant to embrace my identity, not just as a human, not just as a Varen hybrid, but as a bridge. I realized that my life was no longer my own. It belonged to the legacy encoded in my DNA, to the future I could help shape. Months later, we initiated the first official program to study hybrid physiology and interspecies cooperation, carefully controlled and ethical, with myself as a living example. Humans and Varens began tentative communication, sharing ideas, culture, and technology in ways previously impossible. And though the galaxy was still vast and dangerous, the first step toward unity had been taken. One evening, as twin suns set over Vera 9, painting the sky in hues of violet and gold, Dr. Zenth and I stood side by side, looking out at the horizon. "You know," she said softly, "I still cannot believe the DNA results." I laughed lightly, the sound mingling with the warm wind. "Neither can I." But I do know one thing. We're ready for what comes next. She placed a hand on my shoulder, her gaze steady and unwavering. Together, Phazon. Whatever the universe throws at us together. And as the suns dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the lavender plains, I realized that I had finally found my purpose. Not just survival, not just discovery, but connection, unity, a bridge between species, between past and future, carrying the secret of two worlds in my very being. For the first time, I felt truly whole. And in that moment, I knew that my journey, our journey, was only beginning.